Have you ever wondered why classical music sounds so different from the tunes you usually listen to? There's a certain magic in those grand symphonies and charming sonatas, a magic that's woven by the unique characteristics of classical music. Picture this. A grand orchestra is like a bustling city, each instrument representing a different kind of voice, a different character. The violin could be a soaring bird, the piano a flowing river, and the drums the heart of the city beating rhythmically. Alone, they each have their unique charm, but together, they create something truly magical. Unlike the music we typically hear, where one melody dominates, classical music often weaves multiple melodies together. This intricate dance of melodies is what we call a counterpoint. It's like a lively conversation among instruments, each one contributing to the story, making it richer, more exciting. Now, let's dive a bit deeper. In classical music, every instrument plays a specific role. The strings, with their diverse range, often carry the main melody. They are the storytellers, the narrators. The woodwinds, with their unique timbres, add color and depth. They are the artists, painting vivid pictures with their sounds. The brass, with their powerful and resonant tones, provide emphasis and grandeur. They are the heroes, the ones who bring intensity. And lastly, the percussion, the heartbeat of the orchestra, provide rhythm and pace. They are the timekeepers, the pulse. Understanding these roles helps us appreciate the complexity and beauty of classical music. It's like a puzzle. Each piece, each instrument matters, contributing to the overall picture. Without one, the puzzle isn't complete. Classical music is more than just a series of notes. It's a world where instruments converse, where melodies intertwine, and where stories unfold in the most enchanting way. So the next time you listen to a symphony, remember, it's not just music, it's a conversation among instruments. Did you know that classical music has its own golden ages, just like comic books and movies? As we delve into the world of classical music, you'll discover it's much like a grand unfolding story. This tale is told over several centuries, with each era adding its own unique rhythm, style, and sound to the narrative. Our story begins with the Baroque period, spanning from the early 17th century to the mid-18th century. This was a time of extravagant and dramatic music, with composers like Johann Sebastian Bach and Antonio Vivaldi stealing the show. They wove together complex melodies that danced around each other in a lively display of musical prowess. Then comes the classical period, from the mid-18th century to the early 19th century. This era saw a shift towards simplicity and elegance. The music became less complex, but more expressive and emotional. Composers like Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart and Ludwig van Beethoven started to shine during this period. They created music that was balanced and structured, yet filled with a depth of emotion that still resonates with us today. Our journey doesn't stop there. We then move into the Romantic period, from the early 19th century to the early 20th century. This was a time when emotion and individualism took center stage. The music of this era, composed by greats like Franz Schubert and Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, was characterized by its passionate, dramatic, and often melancholic tones. And so, through these periods, we see a fascinating evolution, from the flamboyant Baroque period through the refined elegance of the classical era to the impassioned drama of the Romantic period. Each era brought its own distinct style, its own golden age, contributing to the rich tapestry that is classical music. This, dear listener, is the beauty of classical music. It's a living, breathing art form that has evolved and grown over centuries. It's a testament to human creativity, a universal language that transcends borders and time. Just as fashion trends change over time, so too does music, even classical music. Ever heard of Mozart, Beethoven, or Bach? They were the rock stars of their time. Let's journey back to the 18th and 19th centuries, a time when these maestros were making waves in the world of classical music. First stop, meet Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Born in Austria, this child prodigy composed over 600 works, many of which are considered pinnacles of symphonic, concertant, chamber, operatic, and choral music. His innovative compositions, characterized by their melodic beauty and harmonic creativity, have had an enormous influence on subsequent Western music. Next, we have Ludwig van Beethoven, a German composer and pianist. Beethoven's music marked a transition from the classical style to the romantic, and his 9 symphonies, 32 piano sonatas, and 16 string quartets are still celebrated today. Despite losing his hearing in his late 20s, Beethoven continued to compose, creating some of his most admired works in the final decade of his life. And then, there's Johann Sebastian Bach, a German composer and musician of the Baroque period. Bach's compositions, including the Brandenburg Concertos and the Goldberg Variations, are celebrated for their intellectual depth, technical command, and artistic beauty. His music is seen as the epitome of polyphonic music, a style that involves 2 or more simultaneous lines of independent melody. These composers were not just musicians, they were revolutionaries. They pushed the boundaries of what was possible in music, experimenting with form, harmony, and instrumental technology. They created new genres, invented new techniques, and gave us some of the most beautiful music the world has ever known. Their influence can still be felt today in every corner of the musical world, from film scores to pop music. Their work continues to inspire, challenge, and delight us, centuries after their passing. So next time you listen to a piece of classical music, remember that you're not just listening to notes on a page. You're hearing the echoes of these musical pioneers who dared to imagine a new world of sound, and in doing so, changed the course of music history. These composers were not just musicians, they were pioneers who shaped the world of music. Think classical music is just for grown-ups? Think again. Classical music, often seen as the domain of the mature and sophisticated, is actually a fantastic tool for children's development. How so, you ask? Well, let's delve into that a little more. Studies have shown that classical music can have a profound impact on children's brain development. The intricate melodies and complex harmonies stimulate the brain in unique ways, helping to improve memory and cognitive skills. It's like a workout for the brain, but instead of lifting weights, you're navigating the beautiful labyrinth of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, or dancing through the playful notes of Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. And it's not just about cognitive development. Classical music can also unleash a child's creativity. As they listen to the ebb and flow of the music, their minds can wander, creating stories and images inspired by the music. It's a bit like reading a book, but instead of words, you have melodies and harmonies painting a vivid picture. But don't worry, you don't need to sit your child down and make them listen to hours of Bach or Vivaldi. Classical music is everywhere, even in places you might not expect. Take popular children's movies and shows, for example. Remember the enchanting music accompanying Cinderella's transformation, or the thrilling symphony driving the action in Star Wars? That's classical music right there, subtly weaving its magic and engaging your children's emotions without them even realizing it. And it's not just in the background. Classical music often takes center stage in children's programming. Think of the iconic scene in Fantasia where Mickey Mouse, as the sorcerer's apprentice, conducts a lively orchestra of enchanted brooms. Or consider the lovable character of Placido Flamingo in Sesame Street, who introduces children to opera. These examples show how classical music can be both entertaining and educational for children. It helps them understand emotions, appreciate beauty, and develop patience and focus. So, classical music isn't just for fancy concerts, it's a part of your favorite shows and movies too. Now, who's ready for a fun game of Name That Tune? Let's take all that knowledge we've gleaned about classical music and put it to the test. This is a game where I'll play snippets of well-known classical pieces, and your task is to guess the composer or the name of the piece. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. First up, we have a piece that's bound to get your toes tapping. Its lively tempo and distinctive melody have made it a favorite among many. Can you guess what it is? That's right. It's Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Did you get it right? Give yourself a pat on the back if you did. Next, we have a piece that's a bit more somber, yet so powerful. Its haunting melody has been used in countless movies and TV shows. Any guesses? That's Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. If you guessed it correctly, well done! Now here's a piece that's full of drama and intensity. Its thunderous opening might give you a clue. Can you name it? Bravo if you said Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture. Moving on, here's a tune that's sure to have you humming along. It's light, airy and uplifting. Can you guess this one? Yes, it's the Blue Danube Waltz by Johann Strauss. If you recognized it, you're doing great. Finally, we have a piece that's both delicate and powerful at the same time. Its beautiful melody has captured the hearts of many. What could it be? It's none other than Clair de Lune by Claude Debussy. Well, that wraps up our game of Name That Tune. I hope you had as much fun playing as I did hosting it. And remember, the more you listen to classical music, the more familiar these tunes will become. You'll start recognizing them everywhere, from movies and TV shows to commercials and even your local supermarket. So the next time you hear a classical tune, you'll be able to say, "I know that one."